knew that was close. In this video, I built something that I've wanted for a very long time. It's a fire pit. But not just any fire pit. This fire pit had to check a few boxes. It had to look the part, it had to be easily lit, and it had to be something that I could walk away from without having to babysit forever. If that didn't give you a hint, let's get into the video so I can show you what I'm talking about. This fire pit is going to have a top made out of concrete, and to start that concrete top, I had to make a form using this melamine. I put together a very simple form with some screws and a little bit of caulk, which you'll see a little bit later. And then I use these foam sheets for an insert that's going to be in it. You ever hear the term board stretching before? Well, I'm going to foam stretch. We're going to let this tack up for about 1 to 2 minutes. It's kind of eating the foam a little bit. I'm going to get one shot at this. Contact. Not bad. Last but not least, contact. I think we successfully stretched our foam. Now I have 2 inches. Well, I have more than that, but never mind. Specifically, the insert that I'm going to be using on this fire pit required a 2-inch gap, and I couldn't find any foam that was 2 inches, so I figured I would stretch some. Between the length and the thickness, I was able to get exactly what I needed just by using a little bit of spray adhesive. So I have some of this leftover mesh from a buddy's project that we worked on. I was gonna buy some wire mesh to use in here, but this is gonna be great. This is a product from Concrete Countertop Solutions, and this stuff's awesome. It's such a great product. It's so easy to work with. If you look at the picture I have here in the top right, that's how it's normally used. You just push down your mesh into these little wedge things that you screw down, and it just holds or floats it right where you have it. First pour. An eyeball. I think that's half, but I don't know. What we just did there was add a little bit of coloring to the concrete. I'm after a little bit of a darker color than the natural concrete color, and unfortunately we couldn't find the right concrete for this mix. I wanted the concrete countertop that has very little to no aggregate in it, but it could work to our favor in this because when we polish it, it could look really cool too. I know through the course of this build I'm using quite a few products and referencing them. I'll put links to all the products I use down below so you guys can check it out in case you guys want to try this out on your own. The first pour here, I poured about half, and then I'm going to put my mesh in that we pre-cut. And I'm just going to push it down and figure out how we can get all of these air bubbles out, or at least most of them. The goal here is perfection, but we very rarely can actually attain that. So here's the second pour. I'm going to go probably as close as I can to the top without making a mess. If I was to do this all over again, I would just pour it to the top because, as you'll see later, this does pose a few problems for me. This is the first trowel I used, and it's just a normal stainless steel trowel just to work it around and get it exactly where we need. Then I use my reciprocating saw with the blade removed, of course, to try to get rid of all those air bubbles. Go to town on this. Try to go as much as you can because you can never get rid of too many air bubbles. And lastly, I use my magnesium float when I start working the cream to try to smooth it out because at this point, this is what I think is going to be my show side. Now that the concrete is marinating, we can turn to the base. And I had these 4x4s lying around the shop that I thought would be perfect to make 2x2 legs out of. At this point, some of you might be wondering what kind of fire pit would I be making out of concrete and wood? And if you guessed propane, you guessed correct. Now, I love a good log burning or wood burning fire pit like the rest of us, but sometimes it can be an annoyance to have to babysit it, or you have to make a decision before you go out. Hey, how long are we going to stay out here today? Because we just can't light it and walk away. And me being a firefighter, the last thing I want to do is be embarrassed when I have something happening at my house that I don't want to happen. So I turned to a gas fire pit. And the gas fire pit makes it so that anybody can light it. And at the push of a button, you have a flame. And at the turn of a knob, the flame's out. And I thought that was probably the most utilitarian version of a fire pit that you could have at your house, especially when you're as busy as us with 3 little kids. Now this base is a simple build. It's just a few 2x2s as legs with a bunch of stretchers holding it all together. What's going to take this up a notch is when we add what goes on the outside of this. When you guys see that, you'll see what I'm talking about. In the middle here, I'm just adding a few braces just to add a little bit more strength and rigidity, which I don't even think I need, but overbuilding is something that I love to do, so we're going to do it. I added a few braces to the bottom too, and the only thing I was worried about was essentially the concrete that's going on top of this. But as far as the outside goes, I have all these cedar planks that I got from a wholesaler that I just add a little bit of glue and brad nails to, and that's going to clad the entire outside of this. The base will leave open because nobody will ever see it, and it'll keep down the weight. I really like the look that these cedar planks give it on the horizontal, because I did toy with going vertical, but I'm glad we went this route. Bet you can already figure out what that door is for, but do me a favor, put it in the comment section below. Wrong answers only. Now this fire pit kit I found on Amazon, the instructions were lacking, but we still figured out how to get this done. I realized once I put this in that I would also need some blocking potentially behind there just to stop on the flexing. Not that there would be a lot of force going laterally across, but just so there was something to screw into and some rigidity. I'm using rare earth magnets for the door, and I had these stainless steel washers lying around that I was going to use for the other side. I used this 2-part epoxy to epoxy the magnets in, and they're not going to go anywhere. It's essentially bulletproof. This is a trick I picked up where if you use your magic marker and you press down on the other side, the imprint is going to tell you exactly where you need to drill. It just telegraphs it perfectly, so I knew where to screw in without having to use any math. These are one of those tricks in woodworking that I love. It's like referential measurements. A lot of times it's way better than actually taking measurements because you can't miss. I decided not to use a handle here because I wanted it to be hidden, and the way I have it set up, I'm very rarely going to have to open that. This is about a week and a half later, and the concrete seems to be cured. I'm just removing all the screws here, and I'm gonna work to release this. I know it seems like it's a little bit hard to come off, but I promise you the paste wax did its job. One of the things I'm going to concentrate on next time is taking my time with the caulk. It doesn't look bad, but if you look at the lower part here, it just looks a little bit messy, and I think I could have done a better job. As my little ones come to say hello. And then they exit just before I...
Ooh, that was close.
And because I didn't learn my lesson, I figured I'd risk it all here. I guess I didn't leave yet. Here's a quick sneak peek of what it looks like when I add a couple coats of teak oil on there. I wasn't quite happy with how the top turned out, so I'm making a slurry here just to fill in some voids and to see what I can do on the outside here. Once that cured and I sanded it down quite a bit, I brought it outside because I'm getting ready to make a mess. I brought out the polishing wheels, and with the first couple grits, you actually do it dry before doing a couple wet. The last part for the top is to take care of sealing it. I did a lot of research on what to use to seal it, and it wasn't an easy decision, but what I will say is buy once, cry once. Sealing is one of the things that you want to make sure that you can ensure this thing lasts for years to come, so do it right. One of the other things I could have done was actually put finish on both the inside and outside, but because it was cedar, I figured it was already weather treated and primed for the weather that I didn't need to take care of the inside. Only time will tell if that's actually true, but I think the outside looks great and you'll never see the inside. Check down below because I'm going to put a list of all the supplies and products I use on this in case you guys want to try your hand at this. Enlist your friends because it is heavy, and after coming this far on the project, the last thing I wanted to do was drop it and break it.
That's holding up this weight here. I don't think you even need that cross up. Like this is holding up this right here. The outside is holding a lot of this weight. This is not that heavy.
Poor measuring.
You don't need that.
I'm just gonna cut it.
I'll get rid of that one.
Let me just cut it.
Yeah, I don't think you really need it.
So based off of our deliberation there, I'm sure you can understand I did over-engineer this and overbuild it, and I did just cut it because I didn't need it. Regardless, we got to where we need to be, and here's the test burn. Woo, a little scary. Probably my favorite part of this build is this little trap door. So I utilized magnets on the back side to be able to close it up and hide our propane tank. So I'll just turn our propane tank on, adjust the regulator, and then place this back in. So as long as we're out here, I don't have to deal with that compartment until I'm ready to go inside the house. Honestly, because I have another shut off here, I think I'd be okay, but we always want to be extra safe, right?